Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Backseat Fighter podcast. Your boy is back. They couldn't get rid of me. I don't know who I'm talking to, but yeah, I'm back. It's UFC 322 this week in New York, where I live. So they called me out. Dana White called me up. He said, you got to get covering this. Where have you been? Why are you not covering every single card? At least do this one. And I said, Dana, for you, only because it's you, I'll get back on and do a full breakdown of this card. So let's talk about this main event. Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. I mean, it's a battle of the names. Great names in the main event, obviously, here. But listen, let's talk about Islam first. One of the greatest fights ever, if not the greatest lightweight we've ever seen. I don't know if I necessarily subscribe to that opinion, but many do. He's only got one loss, 50-fight win streak. He was coming off that Renato Moicano win. He had the 2 fights with Volk. He had the Dustin Poirier. He had Charles Oliveira, King Green, Dan Hooker, and a win over Arman Tsarukyan as well. So this is a guy who has fought basically a lot of his competition, or, deserved to go up. He definitely deserved to go up. He did enough, in my opinion. And listen, the thing is, though, what makes this fight so interesting is that there are still questions for me personally. So when I rattled off those names, you go, wow, he fought everybody. But then there is caveats to each of those fights, right? The Renato Moicano, very controversial behind the scenes. Somehow Renato gets the fight and, it's a very short notice. And obviously Renato Moicano, according to most, is probably not a suitable matchup for Islam Makhachev and not on the same level. And Islam took the fight still, like the legend he is, and showed that with the Dash choke in the first round. Now, he did have a very competitive fight with Dustin Poirier in terms of damage. Obviously, Islam won most of the rounds, if not all of them. But Dustin Poirier was able to leave some damage on him and make it look like more of a competitive fight than it may have been on the scorecards, leaving that big gash on Islam Makhachev's head before ultimately getting submitted as well. And you look at those 2 fights with Volk, the first one extremely close. I remember being down in the city in Manhattan at the Playwright, a pub down there, watching the UFC, watching that fight and thinking at the time that Volkanovski won. Now, since then, I've obviously watched that fight back and I do believe Islam Makhachev rightfully won. But if that fight goes on, another 30 seconds and there's no ref, you never know. Maybe we never see Islam Makhachev again. Do you know what I mean? So that second fight with Volk as well is a little bit controversial. 9 days notice, something like that, for Volk to come in for the injured Charles Oliveira and get head kicked. It's not even fair on Islam. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, we understand that he can only fight who's in front of him. But at the same time, he needs more statement wins. If you look at that fight against Charles Oliveira, you could say maybe Charles was not at his best. But that Charles Oliveira win, for me, is his most standout win, and that kind of propelled him. Obviously, he won the belt with that fight, but, that's his statement win. I just think he's still missing another statement win, and that could come this Saturday, right, against Jack Della Maddalena. Even if I think about that Renato Moicano fight, right, he got dropped. Look.
Probably, bro.
Renato Moicano just dropped Islam Makhachev. Okay, he might have slipped. But at the time, I thought I had seen the most impossible thing ever since Papi Cisse put it top bins against Chelsea.
Cisse has gone for it. Oh, he scored!
Do you know what I mean? No, but seriously, I thought Renato dropped him. All I'm trying to say is that this fight, this weekend, could be his statement win, going up a weight division, beating the champion at MSG. That could finally propel Islam Makhachev into sort of a unanimous GOAT kind of conversation. This is what it does for him, because he needs that real statement win. But let's talk about Islam Makhachev. I mean, this guy is one of the most well-rounded fighters we've ever seen in this sport. Obviously, his striking is something that we've got to talk about, because you don't associate that necessarily with Khabib's camp or with the Dagestani region in general. You think wrestling, and we'll get to that. But his stand-up is amazing. I mean, those head kicks, when he landed on a Volk, throwing it against Dustin Poirier too, his hands are so clean. He was able to drop Charles Oliveira on the feet. Let's not forget, before he got that submission, he's really, really dangerous on the feet. He's got power at lightweight. Will that translate to welterweight? I think so. He's hopped on creatine now. He's huge, right? It's first time he's taking creatine, and maybe there's some other substances in there from back in the day. I mean, he did get hit with something back in the day. I'm just saying, it's facts. But really, this is going to be a real test for his striking, let's say, because JDM is so good on the feet, and we'll get to that. But let's talk about his Dash choke. This guy has the craziest Dash choke I think I've ever seen in the sport. You know, he got DDP with it, I'm pretty sure. Oh, sorry, he got Dustin Poirier with it, I'm pretty sure. He obviously got Renato Moicano with it and has claimed numerous victims. But listen, when he gets you on the ground like he did against Charles Oliveira, his back extends. He's like one of those $1 million RVs that like celebrities have, like Justin Bieber has. Like he just starts extending different compartments of his body. His back pops out. You got a bedroom, triple bathroom, triple glazed window on the shower. Yeah, have a look. That is Islam Makhachev. The difference now, however, is for me in this fight, what makes it, you know, a little concerning for Islam Makhachev is that he did struggle with certain opponents. In terms of their physicality, I thought Dustin Poirier matched his physicality. I thought Volkanovski in that first fight really pushed him to his extreme. And now that he's going up against JDM, will he still have that physical dominance that he has also presented? Will he be able to physically dominate JDM, a bigger guy who's used to fighting bigger guys at 170? You know, in the octagon, they're probably 190, right? 190 closer to 200. So it's a big test for Islam Makhachev going into this fight. Yeah, but listen, this is a guy who obviously had to be so disciplined. He was a huge lightweight. So for him to be able to not cut as much weight through camp, he said how much happier he is, how much he's enjoying life, and almost how much easier training camp is because he's not cutting the same amount of weight. So we're going to see a happier Islam Makhachev. We're going to see maybe a bigger, stronger Islam Makhachev. Are we going to see it as an in-shape cardio? Can he still push to the same extent? I think all of those questions are things that are going to be answered. And if he is even better than he is at lightweight, if he is even better than he is at lightweight, we are going to have a dangerous, dangerous champion in his prime, upper division, ready to make a statement on Saturday night against Jack Della Maddalena. But let's get to Jack, because I think he is severely underrated in the way that nobody really expected him to kind of become champion. I know there were certain reasons why he fought for the belt. You know, Shavkat was in line but gets injured, and JDM takes his opportunity against Belal Muhammad. But this guy is a gem. What makes this guy scary is that nose. And I'm not talking from an aesthetic point of view of like his opponent being scared of him. I'm just saying, I always get the impression that when a fighter is good looking, they're worried about taking damage and getting cut and messing up their face. You know, there's nothing scarier than a guy or a fighter whose nose looks like a satellite image of the Nile River. Man's moving through continents with that nose. Do you know what I mean? Like, he does not give a fuck if you punch him because, you know what? It's already damaged. I'm sure. I'm sorry. I should go. Sorry. That's a joke, Jack. I'm sorry. That's mean. But the point is, JDM is a monster. He's a really great fighter. Really great. And the way he dominated Belal Muhammad, especially in that fifth round of their fight, to me was a shock because I put Belal up there with the best in welterweight, and I always thought Belal Muhammad would become champion. Just his skill set, his overwhelming presence, his output, his wrestling ability, grappling, obviously. But JDM, like, he's got this ability to switch stances in such a flow. If he absorbs a shot, he stands back or goes back into the separate stance. You know, he'll be in orthodox, take a body shot, land in southpaw. And it's a very, very smart way of fighting, but only if you have the skill, wherewithal, IQ to be able to do it. He's got such good fluidity in his movement. Nothing is wasted. You know, he keeps that shell on that high guard up, and, you know, he throws shots in flow, but doesn't overextend ever or even get out of that stance. You know, he's very disciplined. I think at the end of one of the rounds, he does kind of get into this like kind of karate style stance at the end, but most of the time he's just locked in on that beautiful safe stance, and he just is able to use small micro movements to get out the way of big shots that Belal is throwing, and he's slipping under a lot of them. Let's look at this. At the end of round 2 in that Belal Muhammad fight, Belal's coming forward, trying to land shots on him, out the way, jumps all 3 shots, great head movement. Now, you could make the criticism that he's probably moving too far back in a straight line. Maybe that is true, right? But head movement's there, hands are high, and he's got such great awareness of range, and he's not getting tagged by any of those. But it's not all rosy and dandy. I mean, there's points in this fight. If we go here, 4 minutes 14 in the second round, Jack Della dips his head, tries to roll, Belal reads it and throws a head kick straight up, you know? And he does dip. He does dip his head low. And if Islam Makhachev wants to recreate that Volkanovski knockout, it's there. It's there for the taking. That high kick is there. Now, the thing is with JDM, look, for me, his awareness, his ability to move his head, get out the way of shots, his understanding of discipline defensively is what's going to make him so strong in this fight. But let's go to round 4 in that Belal Muhammad fight. He gets taken down, right? He also gets taken down in that 5th round as well. Now, he manages to get up, he manages to scramble, he manages to bump the hips and get Belal Muhammad off. But if we're being honest with ourselves, do we think Islam Makhachev is a better wrestler than Belal Muhammad? Do we think he's a better grappler? Do we think he has better top pressure? Of course we do. So that's a worry for Jack Della Maddalena. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but, sometimes, obviously Jack Della's got to go into this fight thinking, I'm going to be able to get up, I'm going to be able to scramble, I'm not going to, accept any positions because it's so dangerous to Islam Makhachev. My thing is, Islam Makhachev is more powerful on the feet and is obviously a much better grappler than Belal Muhammad. So we're going to have to see how this works out. If I'm being completely honest with you, I think Jack Della does have the edge on the feet. And he's bigger. He's bigger than anybody Islam has fought before. And I'm sure he's trying to train with guys who are 90 kg and trying to train with bigger guys. But once you get in there, the octagon is always different, right? It's a different level. It's under the lights. So for this fight, I give JDM the edge on the feet slightly. But Islam Makhachev is a beast on the feet as well. Let's not get it twisted. His striking is excellent. And he's got way more power than Belal. And Belal did land in this fight, especially in, when he was able to shoot takedowns or get JDM up against the fence. There have been, heated exchanges where they were throwing full pelt at each other. And I think JDM can't afford to do that with somebody like Islam because he will get hurt if he gets hit with big shots like that. So JDM's got to keep this fight moving forward. He doesn't want to back up because he does back up in straight lines sometimes. He's got to be confident in his wrestling, got to try and scramble as soon as he gets taken down, doesn't want to be on the ground there with a guy like Islam Makhachev. But the main thing about that Nurmagomedov camp is just their mentality is insanely strong. So he's going to keep shooting, he meaning Islam, and tire JDM out. And I think the pace is going to be way more difficult than his fight with Belal Muhammad. But listen, the takedowns, he does get taken down. I mean, he got taken down by Gilbert Burns. He got taken down by Belal Muhammad. I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to be taken down by Islam Makhachev. It's just whether he can stay up or do enough damage before he gets taken down to Islam Makhachev, which I think is a genuine possibility. I give the edge to JDM, as I said, on the feet. I think this is an amazing fight because I think there are questions on both sides. Can JDM deal with the wrestling? Can somebody put a stop to the momentum of Islam Makhachev? And can Islam Makhachev finally get that statement win? Can he be a 2-division champion and basically stamp himself as one of the greatest, if not the greatest in this sport's history? Because he's going to make a case, especially if he goes on a run at welterweight. I think Islam Makhachev is going to become a 2-division champion. I think Islam Makhachev is going to be able to take down JDM and maybe even put enough damage on him that he won't get up and that he'll be exhausted. And I think what we're going to see is a really competitive fight until a finish occurs. I think this is going to be a very, very, very good fight. And I know that Jack Della Maddalena doesn't necessarily have the name value to be headlining a Madison Square Garden card. You would want somebody like, Conor McGregor or Tom Aspinall versus John Jones or Alex Pereira, but Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena is a star-struck, is a absolute banger of a fight. And we should be very, very excited for that. Listen, it's the RV man versus the satellite image of the Nile. Who will come out on top? I don't know. That's a horror. I mean, it's not even funny. Anyway, let's go to the main event. Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, let's talk about Valentina Shevchenko for a second. To be 37, still champion, had those fights with Alexa Grasso, to now be established, had that fight with Manon Fiorot. To be still doing this at 37 is insane. And in that fight with Manon Fiorot, you see that she still has that bounce. I love her style. It's like she's constantly coiled, ready to go and spring and hit her opponent. In that Manon Fiorot fight, that first round, landing that check right hand, that check right hook, was doing damage, like serious damage to Manon Fiorot. And I think it's even in round 4, towards the end of the round, dropped her with the same right hand. I mean, it is beautiful. Just corks it and puts her down. In that fight, she still has all these tools. That's what makes her such a great martial artist and such a great fighter, is that she has so many different tools. Spinning kicks to the head. She had that spinning kick to the body, that roundhouse to the body. It was amazing. And I think that was in the 4th round, 2 minutes 10. And it's just unbelievable, that what she's able to do. But when I look at Zhang Weili coming into this fight, I think she's in her prime physically. I think she's in her prime in terms of her skill set. She's better than she's ever been. She had that fight with Tatiana Suarez, and the takedown was a real threat, wasn't it? And Tatiana took her down. But, Zhang Weili stayed composed, able to get back on top of the end of that first round and then basically stop takedowns for the rest of the fight or reverse positions and dominate. The reason that makes this fight so good is that obviously I think Zhang Weili is entering a prime and Shevchenko is obviously not in her prime anymore, and that's just how time works. But the skill sets are so well matched. The difference, I think, in this fight compared to any other fights that Valentina Shevchenko has had recently is the danger factor. And I mean the power that Zhang Weili is able to produce and land with in terms of her Muay Thai striking that she obviously does in Thailand is insane. Like literally insane. Let's go to this, let's go have a watch of this clip. So this is the third round. Zhang Weili is building into this fight here. Lands a right hand. Oh! Sounds like she put a hole in Tatiana's head. Jesus, Lord have mercy. And in true fight to Tatiana, she didn't go down, but obviously got wobbled incredibly hard in that clip. But she's clearly worked. I mean, in terms of Zhang Weili in that fight, clearly worked on her grappling. I'm sure she did a lot of work with Henry Cejudo. I know they've trained together. She's got all the tools, the power, the technique, and the experience to go now and win this fight and win a second belt. I'm going to go with Zhang Weili in this fight. I just think it's the way the world works in terms of primes in this sport. It's Valentina Shevchenko is one of the greatest of all time, but I think it's Zhang Weili's time now. And we're going to see. We're going to see because the grappling expertise that Valentina can present as well, it is dangerous for Zhang Weili. But I think the power is there for Zhang. And first round is going to be insanely competitive. I probably think Valentina will win the first round. But then as it goes on, I think third, fourth round, Zhang Weili could find a finish. And I'm not even joking. I know that sounds crazy, knowing the amount of ring time and experience, championship experience that Valentina Shevchenko has and how tough she is, how good she still is. But I think I'm going to go Zhang Weili finish. And I know it's a bit out there. But let's get to another fight that I really want to talk about. I mean, Carlos Prates versus Leon Edwards. This is an absolute guaranteed banger. And I know I'm English. I know I'm rocking with Leon in that sense. I've watched him fight in person. I watched him fight Kamaru Usman for the third time in London, UFC pay-per-view. I was there in the crowd at O2 Arena. But I think Prates is going to put Leon out. I really do. I think Prates is going to absolutely put Leon Edwards to sleep. Think about what he did to Leach. Look at that. Look at what he did to him. Think about what he did to poor Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal, is Jeff Neal okay? Let's look. Oh my God. Oh, I actually have no words. When I saw that, my goodness. Jeffrey Neal, gone, sent to the shadow realm. You have Carlos Prates out here just murdering people. And this is the thing, actually, about Carlos Prates, which is why I like him so much and why it's like a heart-aching matchup for me, because obviously I'm English, I love Leon, but I love Carlos Prates. I actually have a funny story about Carlos Prates. I was at UFC 317 filming for the Shooter Box team in Las Vegas, International Fight Week, Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. And I'm with the Shooter Box team, I'm with Charles Oliveira's team at the Full Violence event on a rooftop. So I'm with, Daniel, Willie Cat Santos, who just won, Marco Tulio, who fought last week, all the guys on the team. And it was before the pre-fight dinner, the night before the fight. So we're at this Full Violence event, and I'm filming, I'm trying to get all this vibes captured. Aljamain Sterling's there, whatever. Bro, Carlos Prates pulls up, vodka, Tito's bottle in hand, cigarette, couple girls around him, just having a great old time. And I was like, wow, this guy is a rock star, like real rock star, like, knocking people out on a Saturday, come to Vegas for international fight. We have a couple drinks, have a good time. And I think that's what's part of his allure. It's part of what makes him so cool, because he's able to kind of do that, which you're not really supposed to able to do, and then go and destroy Jeff Neal and send him to the shadow realm, and like in the most devastating fashion. And his Muay Thai is just so devastating. That's a funny story. But I think Leon, to be honest, in this fight, what scares me for Leon is that his output is just too low. It's a couple times in fights against Bilal Muhammad. Sorry, not against Bilal Muhammad, against Colby Covington, that first Kamaru Usman fight. That second Kamaru Usman fight where he landed the headshot dead kick. His output was just too low, and you see his coach trying to like G him up and get him into the fight. I think that's always his weakness, right? And I just think that sometimes he lacks that output. And when you have a guy like Carlos Prates, good output, devastating strikes, I think it represents a huge problem for Leon Edwards. But listen, he's great. His technique is probably second to none in terms of striking, just pure technique, especially the way he throws those head kicks. And I just think his output is slightly too low. And I think Carlos Prates, honestly, is going to put him out bad. And I hate to say that. I really do. But let me get on to the last fight that I want to talk about, which is Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Beneil. I think Beneil wins this fight. Benoit's coming off a great win against Rufi. And listen, Benoit, I don't doubt him for a second as, a really good fighter. I mean, he obviously got that chance against Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier was still good, man. Knocked him out. I think he had, staph infection that week, and then he loses again in a kind of brutal fight. I think it is against Renato Moicano. But he's on a 2-fight win streak, a 2-fight submission streak. I just don't see Beneil Dariush getting submitted. I think his ground game is amazing. I think he's got experience. I know Beneil is around 36, but listen, Benoit takes damage. Beneil has put people down before, bad. He's got power in him. He's got experience. And I think Beneil Dariush is going to come out on top of this fight. When somebody like Benoit, he's got the talent, obviously. I think he was in like the French Special Forces. So he's got the mentality clearly to be a fighter. I'm going to go with Beneil on this one. And I know that might sound crazy. I don't know what the odds look like. I just think Beneil is a dangerous fighter still, and has obviously that jiu-jitsu background. I mean, there was a while where Beneil was like, trying to go for a title shot, and people were saying he was like a good matchup for Islam Makhachev in terms of the ground game. So this is not a bum on the ground, and Beneil, for me, has respect. Now, is he the most entertaining personality in the world? Probably not. I love Beneil, but, he's not going to talk his way to selling tickets, but he is an entertaining fighter when he's in there. And I'm sure that Beneil can get this done. I've just realized I missed out the Sean Brady Morales fight, so I'm just going to touch on that very quickly. I think Sean Brady's going to get this done. I think he's just too well-rounded. His grappling is too good. I mean, what he did to Leon Edwards, submitting him in the 4th round of their fight, was so impressive. And Morales, look, he's a wild boy, and he's scary. He's 18-0, and he's a really, really good fighter. But I think Sean Brady has the experience now. I think, he kind of wanted that title shot after beating Leon Edwards, and he didn't get it. But let's see. I think Sean Brady's going to get this done. But if Morales gets it done, that's a very, very interesting addition into that really congested top 5, top 10 of the welterweight division. And, this card has a lot of ramifications for the welterweight division, clearly. It's a division that needs sorting out. So, listen, if Jack Della gets the win, I think the fight next for me, honestly, would be Kamaru Usman. I think he's obviously one of the welterweight GOATs, if not the welterweight GOAT. So I think off his performance, coming back and beating Joaquin Buckley, he probably deserves a title shot. That's who I would give it to. But I think you give it to him even if Islam Makhachev wins. And I think Islam Makhachev just put out a statement saying Kamaru deserves it if, after I win, basically. So Kamaru Usman, I think, is next for the title shot, but that begs the question, what is next? You've got Leon versus Carlos. So if Leon wins, where does that put him? Sean Brady has a win over Leon. If he wins, he's still ahead of Leon in terms of that title shot. Bilal Muhammad, I think, is fighting Ian Gary. So if Bilal Muhammad beats Ian Gary, what do you do? Who is the fight to make? Is it a rematch with Sean Brady? I'm even thinking about Shavkat. Like, Shavkat's still got to come back. He was in line for the title shot, and he's still got to be added back to this division. So I think this has so many ramifications for the welterweight division. It's a really exciting time for this division, but it's so congested at the top, and people kind of shifting and waiting for their spaces. I mean, it's something that Michael Venom Page complained about, right? He was like, I got to go up to middleweight because nobody wants to fight me at welterweight. Nobody wants to fight down. Nobody wants to give each other an opportunity. And that is a problem, right? I think Kamaru Usman is the main, roadblock in that, because he, as his legacy stands, says, well, I deserve it. Like, look at my run. Look at what I did in this division. Look who I am. I got to win against a hungry top contender. I'm just going to wait for a title shot. I think once you get Kamaru Usman out the way, everything else will start to fall into place, especially with the results of this card. Will Leon win? Will Prates win? Will Sean Brady win? Will Jack Della or Islam win? I think it all changes, and it's going to be a big night for the welterweight division. Anyway, it's UFC 322, New York, in the Cribski at MSG, snowing outside, cold, but I'm going to do it, or I'm going to make a good week's worth of content for you guys. I'm just happy to be back on the channel, so please subscribe, like, comment, do all of that stuff, share it if you can. And yeah, I'll be back after the fight to see how badly wrong I was, to get called delusional, to get called the most casual fan you've ever seen. Or I'll be saying I told you so and just being fully toxic. No, I'm joking. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I've been Charlie Bins, and I will see you after the fights. Great fights on this weekend that we get gifted by the UFC. And I think that main event and Carlos Prates versus Leon Edwards are going to be bangers. So I'll see you next time. Please subscribe. It's been Charlie Bins. Thank you so much for watching.